page 8. This text. We had started looking at this first, in this collection, the first instruction called Stages of Mahamudra, a message for Gompa Rakpa Dorje. So, page 8. Yeah? If you miss the first part, I believe it's already on the Drigong Dharmakirti YouTube channel. Thanks to the efforts of Jeff and others, these videos have been diligently posted. So page 8, on the second column, having abandoned the faults and defects of your samayas. So this continues from Kyobpa Rinpoche saying, first you request the 4 empowerments, which is the precious path of ripening. So the 4 empowerments are given to ripen or to mature of a potential. Then in terms of empowerment is not just referring to the ritual. The ritual is an occasion of empowerment, of course, as in you are offered the opportunity to receive empowerment. Whether you receive or not, that's a big question. Attending gives you a chance of receiving. Attending gives you a chance of actually taking the empowerment. If you don't attend, then maybe the chance of taking the empowerment is not even there. But empowerment is not limited to the ritual where there is a Vajra master. What we have to do is first to take empowerment from a Vajra master in 3D. You are there, they are there. You have to do that at least once. That serves as a basis. Then you say, oh, but the great beings of the past, Milarepa, this, that. Okay, you're not them. End of story. So you need a basis, It's talking about how realistic is this. Is it possible? It's possible. Anything is possible. Is it probable? Not probable. So you need a basis. So the basis is having received the empowerment from the Vajra master. Then, even that, not yet guaranteed. So that on the basis, so that we call basis empowerment or base empowerment. After base empowerment, we have to cultivate path empowerment. Path empowerment is our practice of receiving empowerment from the Guru in the 4 places. Some sadhanas have very explicit sections on receiving the 4 empowerments. Some sadhanas do not have that, but whether they have or they don't have, it's in that sadhana, this notion of receiving the 4 empowerments in the crown center, in the throat center, in the heart center, and in the navel center. These 4 centers receiving the 4 empowerments. And so that's the path empowerment. Then when Buddhahood is achieved, that is called fruition empowerment. And that is the empowerment that awakens us into the state of Buddha, that very final empowerment. So we need to have the ground or the base empowerment or the basis empowerment, the path empowerment, and the fruition empowerment. This in particular in the Sakyapas, they explain this very clearly. And the Sakyapas are the masters of tantric tantric stages, tantric scholarship, tantric knowledge, all of that very clearly explained, especially among the Sakyapas. So here anyway, he says, you request, you take the 4 empowerments, which is the precious path of ripening, of maturing, of a potentiality, from an authentic and sublime guru. Then after that, having abandoned the faults and defects of your samayas, so keep your samayas, keep your commitment. In the morning class that some of you are participating through Zoom or through Facebook, there, recently we are at the section where Kyobpa Rinpoche talks about, one way to think about what we mean when we say Dharma practice. In this chapter, teaching number 6, he says, essentially, to put it in very simple terms, maybe terms that you don't like, or some of us don't like, he says, it's simply giving up, avoiding the 10 non-virtues, and cultivating the 10 virtues. There, he says, what are samayas? He says, what is the individual liberation vows, whether it's the 5 lay vows or the 8 temporary fasting vows or the 10 novice vows or the 250 plus detailed vows of monks. No matter what, they are all about cultivating the 10 virtues, avoiding the 10 non-virtues. He says, what are bodhisattva vow then? The next level, the bodhisattva vow is observing those same things, but with the goal, with the intention of benefiting all beings. Then, what are samayas? He says, samaya essentially is the samaya of cultivating the 10 virtues and avoiding the 10 non-virtues. So here, when it says, having abandoned the faults and defects of your samayas. In other contexts, there are many details of samayas. And then colloquially used in kind of Vajrayana circles or Tibetan Buddhist circles, people talk about samaya. There they say, oh, don't break your samaya, don't break your samaya. And that means often they're referring to don't break your loyalty. Unfortunately, that's often what they mean. But that cannot be the meaning of samaya. But often they mean don't break your loyalty to your guru. But it should not be understood in those terms. There are aspects of Buddha Dharma that has become kind of blended with cultural, historical context. Loyalty is really important in Tibetan society. The landscape of Tibet I've talked about is very harsh. So loyalty is really important. There are skillful things that we can learn from this kind of loyalty. There's also unskillful things. The unskillful ones, we don't adopt, So here, basically, the basic meaning is cultivating the 10 virtues, avoiding the 10 non-virtues. So do our best to abandon those faults and defects. Kyobpa Rinpoche also, this morning's reading, he says, now how does this connect to settling the mind? He says meditative absorption. How does this relate to the task of settling the mind, making the mind, the heart steady? That's like the Buddhist emphasis. The Buddha's emphasis is steadying the heart. Now, for comparison, other spiritual traditions have other kind of more immediate goals that they're talking about. that they're interested in. Look at a church. Old churches, cathedrals. Once you walk in, right, you have no choice but to do what if you're paying attention? Look up. If you're paying attention, you walk in, you have no choice but to look up. Everything is designed to pull you upwards. That's that tradition. Down to the architecture, down to the music. Yeah? It's to pull you up, The way they sing, the way they pray, the way they chant, is to bring you upwards. It's to elevate. It's to excite. And not a criticism. They have their own method, They have their own method. But if we are not aware of these differences, and then we mush them all together, it may not work very well. So the Buddha's path is the path of not exciting you, not even elevating you. No, it's not. It's not to how can I raise your spirits today? How can I be a cheerleader to you today? No. You have to find that somewhere else. Really. You're feeling a little down, go look up when is kirtan happening when, at what night in Asheville, Go and sweat a bit and, feel good, and elevated. Then here what we have to offer is how to steady the heart. Yeah. So this morning in that teaching, Kyobpa Rinpoche says, when it comes to the task of meditative concentration, steadying the heart, he says, how do you steady the heart? He says, not through tricks and techniques. Yes, Buddha did teach tricks and techniques like how to hack, how to hack the mind, right? Yeah, you could say, Vajrayana has a lot of hacks. But all those things don't work if you don't understand the connection between the samaya of observing the 10 virtues and avoiding the 10 non-virtues. Because he says, if your mind is not clear because your body, speech, and mind is not clear, no matter how hard you try to focus, it will not happen. Your mind cannot settle. Your mind cannot be steady. In other words, if your conscience is not clear, your mind will not settle. So body, speech, and mind needs to be in alignment. That's also what yoga means, to be in alignment. Body, speech, and mind. Body, speech, and mind in alignment means the virtues. It's aligned with the virtues, meaning skillful actions of body, speech, and mind. So we need to be committed to, not in a dogmatic way, not in a fanatical way, but through understanding, we say we are committed. Yeah. So then when we find ourselves doing stupid things, we don't have to be harsh with ourselves. Bad. But rather failed again, undermined myself again, And understand that, the power of habitual propensities can still be very strong. Even when you have made the resolve now not to do this, but the power of habitual propensities is very strong, right? So when you quote unquote fail, right, don't like mess up the present commitment that you have, and like, start like beating yourself up. You just let it go, and say, fail, let it go. If whatever you did also harmed somebody else, go make peace with that. Go make up for that, because that's part of the clearing of your conscience. Go do something about that, but mainly let it go. Let it clear. So this abandoning the faults and the defects of your samayas. And also, we talk a lot about, finding resolution, okay? There, the Buddha says, you're wasting your time. It's not always possible. Not to say you should not, of course, depending on context, at work, some kind of resolution, of course, need to arrive at, But if it is more about relationship, past wrongs, all those things, not always possible. You have to let go, know when to let go. So having abandoned the faults and the defects of your samayas, now your mind is clear, or not, at least not preoccupied, right? Then sit cross-legged on a comfortable seat in a very remote and secluded place. Then, having performed all the preliminary branches to meditative concentration, so know all the different points, having gone to a quiet place, sit down, body stable with legs crossed and the back upright, these types of preliminary branches. First, reflect on impermanence and the defects of samsara. So here, out of the usual 4 thoughts that turn the mind, he mentions 2. Impermanence and the faults of samsara. Faults of samsara, by the way, is not saying this world is bad. People misunderstand and they think, oh, wait, I thought we are supposed to be bodhisattvas. We're supposed to love the world. That's Siddhartha's, Hermann Hesse's Siddhartha. That's not Buddha Dharma. Again, don't get them all mixed up. In the first place, when you say defects of samsara, we're not talking about what's wrong with the world. We're talking about the defects of confused existence, which is a state of being, a state of mind. So look at those faults, those defects, so that you can arrive at, I am done with that. I am finished with that. Like this is enough of being dragged around, basically. And enough of being misled by temporary kind of satisfaction. I'm going for the long haul. So, but it doesn't mean, contemplate samsara's defects, stop baking bread or making kimchi, You continue, you just know, whatever, satisfaction is going to bring you is unstable, Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work, Somebody said to me recently, it's like, you have a very nice voice, and really great, for teachings and everything. But when you chant, I have to turn off the volume. So that's like, sobering, right? I was like, what to say?
I'm a big fan of the chanting.
What honest feedback.
Yeah, exactly. Honest feedback, It's more about, it's like very, this was actually the occasion for me to start explaining, well, yeah, the voice is probably part of the problem, but the other side of this is, in this tradition, all the chants are more or less monotonous. We don't have the, And now Buddhists try to get around that. So if you look at the range of the Buddhist like cultures, right? Southeast Asia, most conservative in not going beyond this monotonous chant. So Theravada. Then you go north to Tibet, mostly also monotonous. Here and there are some melodic qualities that comes in. Then you go to East Asia, the most melodic of all the traditions that they have introduced. So if you listen to like Chinese Buddhist services, like chanting services, still, so basically you can break the vocal practices into two groups. So like in Tibetan, during group chants, which is essentially kind of Nyingma style of doing group practice, the group chants, there's an emphasis of when you come to chanting the mantras, you should use melodic tunes and slow. That's a Nyingma style of group practice. So then, of course, there's Zhi. But actually, Zhi, right, in many monasteries until recently, not allowed to practice on monastic grounds. Yes, they are banned. Not because they're bad, but considered inappropriate for monastery. If you're up at your retreat hut, that's fine, but not allowed in monastic grounds. Yeah. And all of this has to do with, but then when you go to East Asia in Chinese, Korean, Japanese, they have the monotonous chant and they also have melodic praises. Yeah, so like in the praises, they assigned basically folk tunes that were popular during in the past were taken. And all of this, why are they so hesitant? From Theravada, completely no melodic chants, to East Asia, shyly melodic. It's because the Buddha has a rule that says monks and nuns are not allowed to sing and dance. So you can't stray too far from that. That's why. So, like in North Asia, right? They would use percussionist sounds, but no string, no wind. I mean, there's the trumpet, right? But no string where you can, and definitely minimal singing. Anyway, coming back here. This all then, goes back to the steadying of the mind, the steadying of the heart, the cooling of the emotions. So, impermanence and samsara's defects, then train your mind in love, compassion, and bodhicitta. That essentially is what we call relative bodhicitta, right? Cultivate that. Then practice the creation and completion stages of deity yoga. Now, although the creation and completion stages with characteristics are the cause for the two form kayas, and the Nirmana kaya and the Sambhoga kayas that appear for the benefit of others, they will not bring about ultimate Dharmakaya. In order to achieve the Dharmakaya, which in any case is the basis for the arising of the Sambhogakaya and Nirmanakaya. So he's just speaking rhetorically. It's not as if, there are some sublime beings who have achieved Nirmana and Sambhogakaya and running around out there and no Dharmakaya. Yeah? The point is that the creation and completion stages with the creation stage and the completion stage with characteristics. I don't know in English how to make it clearer. It's not talking about creation and completion stages with characteristics, but the creation stage and the completion stage with characteristics. These two give rise to the two form kayas, but they will not bring the ultimate dharmakaya. For that, you have to practice Mahamudra. Next section, hence the supreme path of all victorious ones throughout the past, present, and future, which was practiced by all the Mahasiddhas of bygone times, and is the life essence of the Viras and the Dakinis, is Mahamudra, is the mind itself. Now here is directly working with the mind. So the Tantra of Vajrakesha says, through meditating on the mind as the Supreme Buddha, one awakens as a Buddha in this very life itself. For there is no Buddha or sentient being apart from this precious mind. And this was taught by Vajradhara himself. Our mind, the mind itself, is what concocts samsara. The mind is where nirvana is to be tasted. Furthermore, the Guhya Samaja, the king of Tantra, says, it is free of all phenomena. It has abandoned the aggregates, elements, and sense sources. And so it is free from all phenomena. This ultimate nature of mind. And it is done with the aggregates, the elements, and the sense sources. Meaning, this body and mind, it's even free from this body and mind. As in the activities of the mind. These aggregates, elements, and sense sources, they are the activities of the mind, not the nature of the mind. The activities of the heart, not the nature of the heart. Yeah? And also free from apprehended objects and apprehending subject, no subject-object either. With the selflessness of phenomena in utter equanimity, your own primordially birthless mind is the nature of emptiness. And so we have to realize this birthless mind as having this nature of emptiness. Emptiness, empty of what? Empty of inherent existence. So you don't just jump into this, of course. First, I would say, learn how the mind creates suffering. Not theoretically, but practically. Watch, pay attention, watch your mind. See how it concocts suffering. See how something comes up, then it immediately goes to what it is used to. Then it starts feeding that particular habit. Yeah? So first we learn, through various meditation practices, how to understand, how this mind works. How the busy mind works, how the monkey mind works. Then from there we can see that it is burdensome. The burdensome nature of this mind constantly demanding to be entertained. See its burdensome nature. In other words, the nature of dukkha, unsatisfactoriness. How it cannot be satisfied. Then see the impermanent nature, the uncertain nature, the unsure nature of these experiences. Then see the not-self nature. Then see the emptiness nature. So there are, these stages. It's not like you just jump into, oh, mind is empty, okay. Let me just keep my mind blank. That's not the birthless nature of the mind. These words were spoken by the Bhagavan, the protector of the world. Dilipa taught. And so another quote from Tilopa. In English Buddhist, we call him Tilopa. But in these early sources, the Tibetan sources, they all refer to him as Dilipa. So these translations we have kept Dilipa. The protector of the world, Dilipa, taught, I, Tili, have taught that the suchness of your own mind is the result. What is the result? What is the goal? What is the fruit? What is Buddhahood? Buddhahood is the isness, suchness nature of your mind. It is like this, thus, thusness, suchness. It's a peculiarly Buddhist English, suchness, thusness. Dekonani in Tibetan. It is like that. So that's quite a mouthful. It is like that nature of the mind. Like that. And you say, what that? That. That. You know? And like, what? That. You know, it is just like that. Meaning, it is just as it is. Not modified, not fabricated. And definitely not joined with other things. The thatness nature of mind, the suchness nature of mind, the isness, thusness. It is just like thatness. By reciting or by repeating these profound words, you meditate on Mahamudra, your own mind. So it says, you take one of these, doesn't mean you have to chant like mantras, You take one of these to serve as a prompt, whichever is appropriate, to serve as a prompt. Now remember, he wrote this for Gompa Rakpa Doje, right? A specific person. So it should not be like, oh, this applies to all of us. And this is the difference between these types of teachings and teachings to the assembly, which is what we're studying in our morning class. That series also has been, diligently put on the YouTube channel as well. And not only that, who are the people? You, Judy, Trent, Nathan, and Leonard in Malaysia. Yeah. So Judy, May, Nathan, Leonard, and Trent have been taking notes for each class. So when they are posted on YouTube, there are like at minute number this. Is it down to that or no?
In most cases.
In most cases. But Nathan is shaking his head rigorously. In most cases, except when Nathan does it, if they give the time, like at what minute, these points are mentioned. So again, people are working very hard, to make all of this possible. Hopefully it's useful. And so in the teachings there's a genre of texts in the early Kyobpa masters. They are called the Sokche, which is teachings to the assembly. Teachings to the assembly, there it said that everything taught there, the Lama, when he taught this, he had this understanding that this is equally applicable to everyone. Then in these types of teachings, where it's written to one person, right? You cannot just take this and run with it, so to say. Because Gompa Drapa Doje, Kyobpa knows how much he knows. Yeah? So here Kyobpa Rinpoche is just quoting a few quotes from the text and say, now you go use these words and serve as prompt for you to go meditate on Mahamudra, your own mind. Because if we look at this, you read this and you go, wait, how do I do it? He just say, do it. Do what? Right? Do it. Do what? How? Yep, because you're not Drapa Doje. Yeah? Drapa Doje would know, you know. So there are some limits. Now, generally, mental activity or its absence, the existence or non-existence of arising, meaning thoughts arising, they are mere conceptualities. So this point is a really important point when we are training the mind. When we are training the mind, generally speaking, with regards to mental activity, we try to minimize when we're training the mind. We try to minimize mental activity. So we cultivate calm abiding, shamatha. And why do we cultivate shamatha? So that in a state of calm abiding, special insight can be developed. So generally, it's necessary to reduce mental activity, to reduce mental busyness. But here, Kyobpa says, whether there is mental activity or absence of mental activity, whether thoughts are still actively arising or you're noticing that it's not arising, you should recognize that these two are another subtle level of conceptuality. Yeah? He's not saying, no need to train in calm abiding. Let the mind be as busy and crazy as it can be. He's not saying that. Again, this is specific to Drapa Doje, who probably has been training in a lot of shamatha, calm abiding already. So he's telling him, at your level, recognize that. Probably then at his level, it's mostly an absence of mental activity. And it's mostly thoughts, feelings, emotions are not arising so frequently anymore, right? And it feels good now, right? So Kyobpa is saying, recognize that. Even that is still a subtle level of getting trapped. So even free yourself from that. Any type of meditative concentration accomplished by focusing or relaxing are deviations. Most of this don't literally apply to us. Yeah? Don't literally. But we can still learn lessons from this, which is like in the bigger picture, right? It's saying, even as we diligently train our minds, we cannot fixate, meaning relax, cool it. We should be mindful. We should be mindful when we talk to others, we relate to others, whether others are strangers or others are our family or friends or teachers. Yeah, we should, but also don't fixate, don't grasp overall. Be clearly mindful as much as we can. But don't make it a big deal. So it says, any type of meditative concentration accomplished by focusing and relaxing, those are in fact methods used in this training of mind. You focus your mind, then you relax it. This is to train for your mind to be pliant, flexible. But at Dr. Dorje's point, when he got this message, Kyobpa is saying to him, this can cause you to stray into the God realms. So also watch out for this. So what is going on here? The point that is communicated here is the kind of training of the mind that we're talking about. Yeah? It's not mental, super mental feats. It's not making the mind, the super, like, what do you call it? The Iron Man, It's not the Iron Man of, mind. That's not what we're training at the mind. It's training the mind so that the mind will unclench and relinquish and become free. Not that it will be so profound, so mystical, so become with one with everything. No. All those are deviations. All those will cause us to stray. In one of the formless heavens, neither perception nor non-perception is the highest. Next to that, I think, is like boundlessness. Yeah? So there is a state of advanced meditation that leads to rebirth in that formless realm, where you experience boundlessness, no limits. Even that is not the goal. And then neither mind nor non-mind, or neither perception nor non-perception, that is not a goal. Other spiritual traditions during the Buddha's time taught those as the final goal. In fact, the Buddha trained with two teachers who brought him to the second last, and the last. And he left them. He said, that's not the answer. Why? Because the problem is not whether you experience boundlessness or not. The problem is a problem of grasping. So even if it goes through the direction of experiencing boundlessness, or experiencing, like within Mahamudra, we say the three experiences of bliss, clarity, and non-conceptuality. Right? But even those three, especially Kyobpa Rinpoche, will say they will cause you to stray into the God realms. Watch out for those experiences. There are methods and practices to take us in that direction, but to take us in that direction so that we will go beyond that and relinquish. So it lets you experience like the highest possible exciting, attractive, pleasant experience that you can experience. Almost like saying, okay, now what do? Relinquish. Relinquish. So in the 16 stages, you'll see the language of relinquish in the last 4 stages in the Anapanasati. It's all about letting go, letting go, letting go. In fact, the Anapanasati, I will maybe point this out or elaborate on. Each of the tetrads, you see this pattern of like training your mind to experience nice things and then let it go. For the body to experience a very nice experience, let it go. For the mind to experience a very nice experience, let it go. And then more subtle, for the mind to experience, very good experience, and let it go. And then finally, the complete relinquishing. So this relinquishing leads to freedom. And that freedom is like bliss with a capital B. But it comes as a result of letting go, not holding, relinquish. So just as water is poured into water or butter mixed with butter, try mixing water and butter, doesn't work. Directly actualize your primordial wisdom for yourself in a single instant. And again, you're like, how? Sorry, Drapa Doje knows, you don't, I don't. But water, mixing water, pouring water into water, folding water into water, butter into butter, it's saying, go back to your nature. Go back to your nature. Right now, it might feel like it's water into butter or butter into water. But you need to work to a point where it's butter into butter and water into water. So that emphasizes naturalness. The profound primordial wisdom which you realize transcends the realm of speech, thought, consciousness, and expression. It is realized by those with fortunate karmic propensities. It relies on the path of blessings. So, meaning, you need to have cultivated the right karma for it, meaning an accumulation of merit on your side. And then it relies on the path of blessings. So this is particularly talking about the blessing of the Guru. So this is a Kyobpa style. So this path of blessings mean a willingness to be inspired and to be guided. And it's completely beyond conceptual mind. It is not the domain of logicians. You cannot philosophize your way into it. So I request you, O Sublime One, to endeavor in habituating your mind and cultivating your mind. The same word can be translated as cultivating, habituating. Right now, if we have not yet gained confidence in what this nature of mind is, then there's nothing to habituate. Then we have to cultivate. Through cultivating the mind, the occasion might arise where you glimpse the nature of mind. And after glimpsing or catching this nature of mind, you have to have confidence. In fact, I think some of us have glimpsed this, but then just it happens so quickly, gone. Or glimpse and then no confidence. Or glimpse the wrong thing and think that is it. Yeah, so all kinds of possibilities. Yeah. But in Drapa Dorje's case, it's habituating. It's like he's saying, trust what you already saw. Now don't be distracted. Now stay there. Don't wander anymore. Stay there. Keep remaining there and you'll be fine. So don't manipulate the mind anymore. Don't control it anymore. Because you already saw what it is. Drapa Dorje. Since these profound words are the advice of the precious Guru, the Lord of Dharma, should not be put down in writing as I have done here. So here we think that it's not Kyobpa. Yeah, it's Shirabjungne. He heard this, he saw this. as I have done here, owing to your encouragement, O Sublime One, whatever contradictions or confusions there may be, I humbly request the sublime patience of the assemblies of gurus and dakinis. Elsewhere you find phrasings like that. Oh, please, the dakinis, please don't get upset with me for having written this down. Why it should not be written down is because it's very specific to Kyobpa Dorje. So now it's written down, now we're reading it, right? We need to know how to read it. Otherwise, we'll come away with the wrong lessons, wrong application. This concludes the letter sent to Kyobpa Dorje. So maybe he did write this. Because it's a letter, right? By the beggar Ranashri Ashakya Bhikshu. So this one he did. It's somewhere else where it's clear that it's whoever put it in writing, say, sorry, I'm not supposed to write this down, but I have, because these words of the Guru is so precious. I think that is the other one called the life breath of the Dakinis. Mahamudra, life breath of the Dakinis. I think it's in here, part of this. So
it feels like a situation like that you occasionally hear. It's easier to ask for forgiveness than ask for permission.
I mean, there's a sense that, like, even though a lot of these are private communications, private letters, private advice, but maybe it will be useful to future generations, so we better preserve this, we better write it down. So there's definitely a sense of this. In the 12 volumes of Kyobpa Rinpoche's, collected teachings, I would say that, a fraction, maybe 10%, he actually penned, he actually wrote, he actually composed. Then the rest are all like records of what he said, brought together. Pseudo offering. Page 1.
May I ask a question?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Would you consider the reasoning why we don't want to reach the God realms is because it's a form of desire?
Yeah, the God realm in the according to the Buddha, right? The God realms are just part of samsara. Yeah, the God realm. We're not talking about deities in the sense of Buddhas. We're not talking about the Pure Lands. We're talking about altogether. We often talked about the 6 realms, for example. So 6 realms of existence includes the God realm. I mean, what's translated as God, but Deva, which literally means light beings. Daiva is light. So the Devas are the light beings. And the light beings are full of pride. It's like Shaitan, Satan that got cast out was a lot of light. He was the brightest of all the angels. And then pride. So there are some overlaps there. So these light beings. So this is Indo-European religion, pre-Buddhist. And Buddha saw these beings, and he said, well, these beings, they're very powerful and all of that. They're very beautiful. They're very inspiring, but they are still under the power of the 3 poisons. Yeah, so, in fact, avoid rebirth in the God realms. They're too full of themselves. Right? Then it's hard to convince them this is samsara. They're like, what do you mean? No, everything's fine. Very interesting. So Indo-European religion, right? So the branch that came down to India, to South Asia, the good guys are called the Devas, and the bad guys are called the Asuras. So the demigods, the Devas and the Asuras, right? The branch that went to Iran is the same, they have the same ancestral religion. The branch that went into Iran, which then Zoroastrianism is, one of the clear ones. I mean, there were others that probably disappeared. There, in those texts, the bad guys are called the Devas, and the good guys are called the Asuras.
I mean, that stuff ends up all the way into like Northern Europe
Yeah,
and
yeah.
what's now.
And so-
Ireland, so.
Different branches of this, use different terms to describe, to refer to who the...
Your Asuras got there first.
Yes, the Asuras got there first and said, those bad Devas,
That seems to be a constant, like, oh, we were here first, oh, really?
Yeah, so,
They softened the pride.
yes. And then the Devas said that the Asuras are full of jealousy. Like if they can only stop being jealous, then, they'll have a better time.
That'd be very
Yeah.
warlike.
Yeah, warlike, but you can only fight a war if the other side wants to fight, So the gods are equally warmongering. But basically, one is pride and one is jealousy. So these are the push and the pull. So all the powerful nations of the world, they are Devas. All those without power, they are Asuras. So those are the Devas and Asuras in our world. Yeah? The ones with power, like, what's wrong with these people? Like, why are they upset? Why are they jealous? Work hard and you'll get everything, like us. Pride.
I never related it to the push and the pull.
Yeah. Then the other side goes, we did all the work and you are taking all the results. You exploited us.
They hate us because they hate us.
So, yeah, Asuras and Devas constantly fighting.